All right, good morning. Today, we're going to have a little chat about side hustles. And to be honest, across all of the internet, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, there's literally only one person I can think of to have this conversation about who won't just do the typical thing on social media where it's sugarcoating everything, making everything sound simple and easy, and it's just a walk in the park. And he's known for this as well. And I've known him for a very, very long time. I've been on his show, he's been on my show. But I wanted to bring back Aaron because, hey, this is something that is his wheelhouse. So, Aaron, mate, thanks for joining me.
Mate, we're back here to have the conversation of money, and there will be no BS. I mean, we were talking off camera. Just this is a hard game, and I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah, so I mean, look, I don't think that anyone would deny the fact that the conversation around side hustles, not just this year, I think maybe even for the last 3 years at least, definitely from the cost of living crisis, has been one that everyone is talking about. And the disappointing thing for me is a lot of people make this out to be just something that you can just do that's so easy. And I wanted to have a conversation with you about your take on it because you have this thing where you're taking people out of the 9 to 5 and actually giving people the jump to actually get started, giving them the steps. So I guess really, what's your view on side hustles, mate? How do you picture side hustles when you put it into the frame of day-to-day life?
Well, I don't actually like the word side hustle. I just think because it's become gimmicky. So that's my first thing on it. I'm not overly keen on it. I think the better word for it would be is a side business, because I feel business is more tangible, it's more legit, it's you can kind of imagine a vision with a business, opposed to, I do think of a side hustle as just something that you just want to earn more money through, a car boot, and by buying and selling. That's kind of
Hmm.
where I'm at with it. I feel that really our mentality should be a side business going into a full-time business, because I have learned over my years, if you have any involvement in business, it's so full on that eventually you jump in with both feet and there is no turning back. So with a side hustle, it's just kind of like you want your cake and you're eating it, and just a little bit, and that it's kind of easy. And a side hustle fluffs it up, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but it's kind of a nice coating. Oh, I've got a little side hustle. Okay, are you serious about it? Well, yeah, it's just a side hustle. So I think the terminology is super important, because when you start calling it a business and you start to build out a business, that's when stuff gets really real, which no doubt we'll cover off. But side hustles, are they a good thing? Yes, because I'm very pro making more money, as are you. We've had that discussion, but doing it in the right way for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with you on one part in the fact that yeah, side hustle can feel like you can kind of like have 2 feet in two different things, and I don't know, just the commitment. It really depends on how seriously you want to take it as well. If you're just doing it for an extra, 100 quid here, there a month, then there are probably things that you could pick up to get you that relatively easy. But I think, and I'm talking about this in my book, that a lot of people have got to the point where they're just so disillusioned with like their job. They hate their boss, they hate their colleagues, they have this Sunday evening trauma where they're like, oh my god, I've got to get up and do this on a Monday morning. That I think that quietly people are looking for an exit, and I think that exit sometimes is via the avenue of, I'm just going to start a little side hustle here, see how it goes, and see how it develops.
Yeah, I think that is the case. We are, again, it comes back to education, right? There's a lot more information out there. So people are becoming educated around, hang on a minute, I don't have to put up with crap in the workplace. I could make a plan, and I could plan to exit my job and build something of my own. But I think where we're seeing this delusion is the quick money, the quick success overnight. And it really is a process and a journey. And those are the two right words to use, because my exit was being planned when I didn't have as many resources as what we had now. So when I was 20 years old, it was more networking to get the information. There wasn't as many resources online, or certainly I didn't know where to find them. So the ability to now learn information and then apply it, you can do it far quicker than what I did it. So really, it took me around 5 to 6 years to really be in a position to leave my full-time job. I hung on a little bit longer because my job was so easy, but it did take me a good solid 5 to 6 years. Now, I would say the period of you planning your exit and executing it could be done in about 3 years. Because realistically, first year of business, really tough. Second year, even tougher. Third year, you kind of fluctuate and things kind of settle and you can kind of forecast where you're going to be. So, yes, I think people are more aware of it. But I think what we'll do in this podcast, as I'm sure we're going to get into, is just bring the reality back to the processes in between and actually how hard it is to take an idea and then generate money from someone's pocket into your pocket. That's really hard to do.
Yeah, and I think what you're describing there is not necessarily quitting your job immediately, building something, letting it kind of like test, trial, error, letting it kind of like germinate naturally during that course of that one first year. Because the first year is really, really tough. Second year, you're kind of a little bit more established. I mean, they say that most businesses fail within the first 3 years. So if you can get past the 3 year mark, you've got pretty good chance that you're going to have something that's going to be sustainable there. But here's the first question I think I want to ask you: can and should everyone have a side hustle or a side business that they're developing?
I think the answer is yes, just because of the way society is going, especially if you live in the UK. We spoke about this on my podcast, right? Is
Hmm.
that it's almost becoming mandatory. It's almost the inevitable. If your employer is not going to pay you the going rate to make sure that you can match inflation and counter what society is throwing at us, we have to look for external avenues of making more money. So I don't even think it's a question of whether people should be making more money. I think you need to make more money to avoid victim mindset, to avoid the pity party type of people, to avoid end up hanging around other people that are procrastinating and have this inability to take any action in their life. If you are striving and you are moving forward and you're developing, self-helping, improving in all areas of your life, personally, professionally, and financially, you'll soon see and realize, oh my God, if I didn't do this, my life, it would be a real struggle. If I
Hmm.
stopped everything I was doing now, I would be in the pool of everyone else. I would have to go get a job and I would moan about the job over time because we all do. And then I would blame my employer. I would blame people around me. So I think it's inevitable. I think people have to earn more money. You have to.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And this is where we can get into the conversation of like the way society is built. Well, I wouldn't say built, the way society is kind of panned out. Because I feel like there are certain people in certain like professions that should not have to have a side hustle or a side business. And I'm talking teachers, doctors, like our key services, policemen. Like, why should they have to have a side hustle, especially when you're doing such crucial work? But this is where society has got us to now, in the fact that people aren't being paid enough to keep up with the standard of living, that it almost becomes something that you have no choice over. You've got to go and earn more money to make ends meet and to keep things afloat. And I think it's just so sad. And I often struggle with this concept of capitalism. And it's such a jarring kind of like thing to kind of battle with, because I'm a capitalist in the fact that I've got my own business and I run and I make profits. The same for you. But it's capitalism that is almost, for, to some extent, got us here. It's just, it's hard, mate. What do you think?
I've come to realize, and as I'm learning, as I'm getting older, and I'm sort of understanding the world a little bit more, and I suppose to some degree, maybe becoming a little bit wiser to some degree, is that I just realize life is what you make of it, right? And I just believe that there are two sides to the fence. There is no in between. I truly believe it. You can take action and responsibility and accountability for your life,
Hmm.
regardless of external factors, because again, as you get older, you realize one, no one cares. Two, no one's coming to save you. And number three, no one effing cares. All right. I'm trying to swear less on YouTube now. I realize
That is true.
no
That is
one,
so true.
no, you notice that. No one effing cares. And I've just realized that. And then on the other side of the fence is that you can just let life be controlled and you can be given everything and told what to do, but that will lead to a very dangerous path of bitterness, regret, probably not a lot of money. And for individuals like yourself and myself, is that we're fully aware of what we need to retire a comfortable life. So when you do inform yourself, and you realize these things, then it comes down to, okay, what's the plan? Well, I think we've said this so many times. Like
Hmm.
I'll always say to people, okay, I hear you. I get it. Look, I'm right there with you. I came from that as well. I've worn the t-shirt. My mum and dad have worn the t-shirt. My only question to you, what's the plan? What are you going to do about it? Well, I suppose, I don't really know. Right. Okay, you need a plan. Let's start actioning what we're talking about here. So when it comes to people realizing their situations in their job, there is a way out. Not everyone can be a successful entrepreneur, but there is a way out. The more you learn, the more you earn. And I will say this, just to finish on this point, we are in an abundance of information and resources that is totally for free. I think, right, speculation here, Pete. I think for a certain period, social media will be free for another 5, 10 years. But I do believe at some point it will be pay to play. I do believe
I
there'll be a
wouldn't. I
pay
would
to play.
disagree. I think we're already seeing it being pay to play, and that's
Oh,
been
we are.
filtering in. Certainly on
Yeah,
Instagram. I mean, like it's
yeah,
fully pay to play now. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I think even more so, like we've had okay, bigger picture, central banks, the government, the system, right, won't go too deep with it. It was all trial and error. Social media, it was all something new to the market. And what happened is now all this information came to the market, people started becoming very savvy. Now there are more benefits for employees, tax benefits and stuff like this than there are for business owners. It's because the powers that be are going, people are getting too freaking savvy about this now. People are asking too many questions. Let's make it harder for people who were getting free access pay to play now. You want all this free information because you want to better your life and be more tax
Hmm.
efficient? Pay to play, big boy. Oh no, you can't
Hmm.
because you haven't got the money. Ha ha,
Hmm.
gotcha. I think that's where we're going with it, which is scary. But
Yeah.
but we both know, they don't want people becoming financially savvy.
Yeah. On this point of no one caring, because nobody really cares. Nobody gives a shit. That's just the truth. And this is probably one of the bigger things with even being a creator. It's like nobody really cares about what you're doing until something negative pops up and you can't control that. But I want to bring that into the conversation around side hustles because what I noticed on social media, I don't know whether you noticed the same as well, is that the kind of side hustles that are available now, because people don't care, it feels like morality and is this something that is decent to do? I think that consideration to a certain extent is just has gone out the window as quickly as you could say fart. And it's really really surprising seeing some of the side hustles that people are engaging in, whether they be they're promoting a scam. And let's not get into OF, but it's just really really strange how people are now prioritizing. Right, okay, if I can earn this money, but I do this, at least I've got the money to fall back on. And I'm just like, it doesn't feel right.
We are losing dignity and all morals as a society. No, it doesn't seem like many people have any values. It doesn't seem like many people really know what they want. And look, we can talk about TikTok. Obviously, I'm very active on TikTok. We've got people pretending to be robots. We've got people pretending to be cartoon characters. We've got people repeating sentences for 8 hours a day for gifts. Absolutely. I did a video on this the other day that did very well, talking about this exact thing. We are losing ourselves for a quick buck. And we are now
Mm,
willing to do anything for a quick buck. Maybe because it's the fear of not making moves, the fear of missing out, wanting to get out of a job so badly and making this quick buck. And what I feel that we're being blinded to is a quick buck isn't forever. It's not sustainable, and we're not looking into things deeper, thinking the message and what I do right now, is it going to be adding value or relevant in 6 months time, 12 months time? Will I be in the same position? And the average person, and I say the average person not lightly, but when the average person earns a grand in a day, 2 grand in a day, they spend a grand in a day because it's a huge dopamine hit, and they're like, I'm the big boy, big girl now. I'm in the big league. You're not. It's now how you use that money and how you remain humble, and how you stay content, and you never lose your bite. And this is what social media has done for everyone. It's made side hustles seem incredibly easy. They're not. It makes the journey seem incredibly easy. It makes it seem normal for you to lose your dignity. Like
Mm,
that. I saw a guy the other day, middle age, clearly can't be with anyone, clearly can't have children. I hope not anyway. He was on live doing horrific things while he looked like he was on holiday. And I just thought, where are we? Where are, like, what on earth is going on? Am I actually watching a fully grown man? What?
mm,
And I literally, Pete, I was thinking, what is going on? That's where we're at. That's where we're at. It's mind blowing. So I don't think people really know themselves. I think there are a lot of lonely, depressed, anxious, apprehensive, scared individuals out there that are becoming someone that it will be a living nightmare 5 years down the line. I think this will
yeah,
be a ghost that catches up on them. I really do. I
yeah.
believe that.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing, really, because social media has been good for so many things. I mean, we're talking about side hustles here on this episode, and side hustles really have become these things that turn into huge businesses because of social media. A couple of years ago, I did talk on a farm in Wales. It was called the Do Lectures. And the last time I was invited there, they had this girl there who started up a brand. The brand is called Hair Syrup. She was in uni at the time, and she found out, look, her hair's thinning. She did some research about, how can I grow this stuff? Started, getting products, buying it, and be like, oh, this has done wonders for me. Then people started and this is all on TikTok during lockdown, by the way, millions of views. Then people start asking her, well, do you not have your own? She's like, no, I don't. And she didn't think about it. And I was speaking to her and she goes, I bought it off for like 3 months, but she had so many people asking her, where can I get this? Do you have your own thing? I want to buy one. And she's like, actually, I need to look into this. This business now is absolutely huge. It's massive. And she's like 23 years old. And we were talking and she was like, it's great that TikTok has helped me get to this point, but she's now at the point where she needs to expand her business. She goes, there are no manuals on when to expand, how to expand, what you need to do, the challenges you face when you begin to expand. And that is all a result of social media. And it's weird because social media has so many opportunities, but I think because there are examples of I think it's overnight success. We see it like, oh my God, you were doing this, and all of a sudden you're here. People don't necessarily understand the journey in between. That the morality question comes in because people want to achieve that really quick. I mean, it's stupid because I'm now seeing posts on Instagram where people are asking, and I couldn't believe this yesterday when I saw this post. People are asking, which one of your senses would you give up for $10 million? And this thing had like 10,000 votes. And the most common sense that people said that they would give away was touch. Not hearing, not taste, not sight, touch. And I'm like, so you don't want to be able to touch your kid, to touch your loved ones for $10 million? Are we kidding? Are we joking now? It's absolutely crazy.
This is the two again, going back to two sides. We can fall in either bucket, right? You can use social media to build these incredible personal brands with influences, going on to fully scalable businesses. Look, last year, and everything can be done. It's all possible. I think that the belief, people need to believe more, but also it's how you navigate it and who you end up around and who you listen to, and how you consume information to what you end up believing. Like, you have to know yourself to what you consume, right? And I think when you have a good grounding, you can then really start to build on something. Personal branding, massive. The
Yeah,
biggest asset right now is attention. And then we have the average sales formula. 10 prospects equals one lead, 10 leads equals 5 appointments, 5 appointments equals one sale. Then what we can start to do is then we can start to put that into a formula of attention. So when we can start to generate attention, for example, when you're getting millions of views or whatever on any platform or cross platform, we know that sales are there. So we just have to solve problems. Then big businesses can be built. Then low, medium, and high ticket products can be built. We can aim towards passive income. Just for your viewers, and I know we've spoken about this. 2023, I did over 100 grand just from TikTok collectively, right? Just through many different ways of generating streams of income through brands, sponsors directly on the platform, other PR opportunities I had, and into my business. I built a brand new business last year, a brand new one this year. It's elevated peak performance massively. It's helped with my investment business. So it really has done me absolute wonders. But I fell in the, and I would say this to everyone, when you are using social media, you always create, you never consume unless it's active learning.
Mm.
And what you do is you always provide value, always be an informer, never a vanity creator, always an informer and solving problems. And yeah, the world is your oyster. But again, going back to act now is something I would say to everyone, because the pay to play will, I think, will be quite heavy in in the future.
Yeah, that brings us really nicely into kind of like the main thing that I want to ask you, and it is, what are some of the best side hustles for 2024? What are the ones that you're kind of seeing that kind of work? And I've got my own take on this, but I'd love to hear kind of what you're seeing in terms of what people are doing that go through your program and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so I try and stay away. So just for context, I do stay away from your traditional, heavily marketed side hustles that you see on social media. I don't really talk about the FBA. I don't talk about e-commerce too much. I don't talk about things that have a lot of logistical moving parts. When I look at a business model, or I'm going to start something myself, I think first things first, is it viable? Does it have the benchmark of, does it still scale in another pandemic? And then what I want to do is I want to be at least 60% plus in profit margin, 40% maximum, expenditure. So I want it to be really lean. I want to earn as much money as I can from my laptop or my phone and serve as many people as possible using automation. So that's exactly what I think. So side hustles that I think are brilliant. Number one is what got me out of my job: high ticket commissions in finance. You can get it in all different industries, but in finance, that earned me significant amounts of money in my 20s. I bought everything outright. I have no debt on anything. I own absolutely everything, just due to the sheer amount of money that I made in my 20s. That was through high ticket commissions. You don't hear anyone talking about high ticket commissions in finance or in upselling of products. So that's number one. Then number two, absolute game changer, online consulting or slash coaching. I started my online consulting in 2022. I was £45 an hour. Fast forward in 2024, I'm now £180 an hour, soon to go £200 an hour. I do 5 calls every week. I've been booked over the last 12 months every week at 5 calls a week. It's over a £50,000 average salary a year. It's mind boggling. And then, of course, a side hustle from converted knowledge into digital programs. That would be my three that I would say. So just go over that: high ticket commissions, online consulting slash coaching, information into a well packaged digital program, add value, be validated, proof of concept, get attention, upsell it.
Great, that's fantastic because I agree with you. There's a lot. There have been a lot of people talking about Amazon FBA and all this kind of stuff, and I think those areas are too saturated, or they feel like they're too saturated at the moment. I'm sure there'll be Amazon FBA experts who will tell me you're talking absolute nonsense, Pete. But I do believe that because they've been so much publicized, too many people are actually moving there. And I think for me, when you're looking at a side hustle, I always say to people, try and find something that kind of you have an interest in or something that lights you up, because then it means that you're not going to be pulled in so many different directions. But what I would love for you to kind of like expand on is, when you say high ticket commissions in financial services, give an example of what that actually looks like for the viewers.
Oh, so it can be several things really. So there's two models that I work in. It will be raising what's called junior debt for either businesses or commercial like assets like property and stuff like that, or it will be finding an acquisition for example, like a family office. So a family office might have X amount of money to spend on X product or land or building or what, or take it or buying a company, whatever it might be. And then my high ticket commission will be finding product which matches the client. So I am the middleman from product to what the client needs. So essentially, anything really in finance, as you know, can normally come with a bang for the buck.
Hmm.
So that how do you even learn that? Well, that's really through networking. I had no interest in finance. I'm not good at maths, but I met the right people. When you start meeting wealthy investors, you understand that when you get to a certain level of wealth, and obviously I've understood this more and more, and I've learned this over time and implemented some of it myself, is that Money just needs to keep moving for many different reasons, whether that be tax or end of year, whatever it might be. But they like to keep money moving. So if you can solve a problem for a very wealthy person who has a lot of money and deep pockets, normally that comes at a high ticket commission. And when you get very good and you're very efficient, like this month, I'm moving 180,000 in SAS pension. I'll get paid a lot of money for that. My ticket is very high for that because I'm going to do it efficiently, quickly. We'll get from A to B, nice and quick. Everything will be done. Legals, paperwork, done and dusted. Investors happy, product's good, and then I can charge a whack for doing that. So that's something that's not spoken about. And how do you learn that? I would say just networking and London, being in London and being around other brokers and stuff like that's great. So yeah, that's one
Yeah,
that's not really spoken about. But the benefit is you can earn a lot of money, and I did earn a lot of money.
yeah.
I still do earn a
I
lot
think
of money.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to kind of look beyond, I guess, think outside the box to a certain extent. And like you said, then networking is really, really important. Like trying to have a look at, okay, so if you are on social media, number one, vetting out the sources that you're listening to, because people will make it sound as though, yeah, this is easy to do. All you need to, and this is the phrase that drives me nuts, all you need to do. Like, it's never all you need to do. Like, there is so much more that sits behind it. But all you need to do is do this to earn £10,000 a month. And it's like, we're in a different reality if that is all you need to do. It's just, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, and there was actually I duetted a video where someone said just collect the checks. You never collect checks. You work for the freaking checks. But the thing is, it does take time, and that's another key trait for anyone starting a side hustle, starting a business, is patience. Having the patience to see it through, because profits don't come overnight, but profits and revenue are delivered off results, right? That the better results that you get for your clients, that the better your revenue is going to look. And I think that's the other thing. I can sit here. Obviously, I'm covered up a little bit here, but one thing that really always stands out for me is that I am covered in tattoos. I certainly don't come from any background of wealth or rich parents or any hand me downs or anything like that. But I'm very proud now by my nurturing, my slow process. I am a believer in slow and steady wins the race. Certainly, as I'm getting older, I know that if I see something through, inevitably, as long as I don't give up, I will see success. And I'm very proud of the network that I've built now, because now doing deals like I'm doing this month now becomes so much easier. And they're just
Hmm.
phone calls. It's not coffees. It's not Zoom meetings. It's not pitching myself. They're just phone calls. So
Yeah,
patience is super key if you're going to start a side hustle. But again, reminding people, opportunity has never been bigger. There's so much money on the table. There really is.
yeah. What do you think are some of the things that hold people back from like starting a side hustle or just, giving it a go?
So a lot of people that I now teach in terms of like getting out their 9 to 5, I can tell you exactly the issues that we come across. Number one is fear. The fear of failing holds so many people back. Just that thought of telling people that you're going to be quitting a job to start your business, and that little doubt in the back of your head thinking, what if I had to come back into a job? The fear of that scares most people that they never make the move to start and go full time into business. So fear is a big one. Judgment of others, because let's face it now, everyone is fearful of judgment because of social media. Everyone is comparing themselves. I would say, unless I'm going to take myself out of this pool, because I do feel I'm a different beast. I feel like I'm incredibly ruthless. I don't think I know I'm incredibly ruthless, and my skin is incredibly thick. I don't give a monkey's what other people think about me. I've always done what I've wanted to do, whether my partner, my parents. If anyone said, Aaron, I don't want you to do that, I don't give a monkey's. I'm still doing it. And I feel that that's where I've been mentally strong, is I've always ticked the box off, so I've never been left with regret. People worry about judgment and that they're not doing enough already, and therefore their self-esteem is incredibly low already. We could walk along the street, me and you, past 100 people, you'll have 50, 60 people that are probably lacking confidence to actually explore something new than what they know, which is why they call it Groundhog Day. So, imposter syndrome, fear, judgment, camera confidence. I think people know deep down, and they know that they have to be on camera, but they're scared, especially when you get to a certain age. When people start creeping up to 40, 45, 50, they're like, oh, I do know I should probably be in front of a camera because that's the way it seems to be going. But oh my God, I'm so past it. You're not, but you're doubting yourself. So there are so many factors, and also high competition. We can't lie and
Mm.
say this isn't a highly competitive game. We were talking about that before we started this podcast. This is a hyper competitive game. You have to have the biggest voice, and you need to generate, again, what we said, the biggest asset, attention. If you have no attention, you have no views, you have no sales for any business. No business will survive now without the attention. I would not, I'm not aware of any business that would survive now without attention per week of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that 100%. And that kind of leads me on to I was going to ask you, putting it into the frame of social media being the vehicle to really get eyeballs on what you're doing, to spread your message, to grab people's attention. Do you think everyone has what it takes to do it?
I think you're born with a certain type of character which will help you to generate attention by who you are. I feel that there are some people who lack the confidence to be a bigger voice than what they currently are. There's a lot of quiet people out there. And when you're quiet in a very noisy world, you're not going to stand out. And I have come to realize this more and more. Aaron, if you want to be noticed, and don't get me wrong, I do things in an authentic way, a relatable way, very transparent. There's no BS. I say it, I call it as it is, and stuff like this. And I do things to keep me mentally sane. But every time I do something, you have to have a big voice. You have to have you have to articulate as well in a very different way. I was talking with a friend in the gym, and there's almost like this evolution of London roadman slang. I don't, it just, I came out the womb talking kind of like this. And
Hmm.
my communication's just got better. And when your communication improves, you're taken more seriously. And I feel that also people are holding themselves back because they're letting a lower level language influence them. They're adopting it and they're not being taken as seriously, although they might actually have a good message. And in a
Yeah.
very hyper competitive world, if you put me talking about a certain message, let's put it this way. I did a video yesterday, I posted it. It was 9 minutes long on TikTok. There's not many people that can do nearly 10-minute videos on TikTok and get a high watch rate. It did yesterday. It did something like 159 hours, like just in it did like 30K views straight away, 9-minute views. There's not many people that can do 9-minute views on TikTok and get a high watch rate. Now, if you do that exact same video with someone who's talking like a roadman about 33 bank accounts, I'm being listened to all day long because I'm delivering the message professionally with credibility and I'm adding a lot of value instead of. So you have to also be mindful of what's the message you're putting out there and how you're speaking, because you might have a great idea, you might have a great business, but if you can't deliver it, you're going to get beaten like someone like me if I'm in the same industry as you, because I'll just come in and
Yeah.
crush you, and vice
Yeah.
versa. You'll do that to someone else. So
Yeah.
you have to be mindful of the way you communicate as well.
I think communication is really, really key, and I think you've hit on a couple of things there that are so important. And to a certain extent, I fall into a little bit of of one of the categories of maybe being a little too quiet because of the way that I've built my brand thus far. And it's always one of those things, and this is what we are talking about before we actually press record. In the fact that there are so many voices on social media right now, so many voices saying exactly the same thing. And like I've been doing this now for 4 years. So this is maybe a bit of a revelation for people who will be listening to this. I've been doing this now for 4 years. And one of the things that I've noticed over the past year is people regurgitate the same content. And the struggle that I have right now is I feel like I'm lost in the midst of all these people regurgitating the same content. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so how do I stand out? How do I make my voice bigger with a different perspective that actually is materially beneficial to people that listen? That I've not quite figured out just yet. And when you look at people like Stephen Bartlett, for example, he has a great one of the rules in his book where he talks about, you know, being willing to activate the 20%. In other words, he's saying you've got to be willing to piss off 20, 80% of people to activate the 20% of people who actually care. And I'm throwing it up in my mind, thinking, all right, okay, so how do I do that in a way that, number one, doesn't betray how I approach things, my brand, my personal brand that I built, but it is something that is very, very real in social media age. And I think if people are trying to decide whether they take this jump to develop a business and they're going to use social media as the engine to actually do this, number one, yes, you have to be mindful of this, but at the same time, you have to find your own authenticity within it as well. And I think that's where people struggle to find the balance, or at least that's where I find myself at the moment, is that I want to keep my authenticity, but I know that my voice needs to be louder. So where's that point? And it's going to be a journey of exploration, but the point is you're never going to know unless you start.
Yeah. And do you know what? There's a really important message I want to share here. Firstly, I want to say, obviously, anyone watching this as well, we're running our next event, Power of Social Media. If you want to learn about it, it's like getting yourself to events that will teach you about the reality of it and the right way and what to be consuming and what to filter off. Because here's the interesting thing, right? And just tying into people losing themselves through social media, chasing the money, but they're willing to do anything for it. This is why, if anyone says to me, Aaron, I'd love to go full time in content creation, I'd always say, great, great. Have that as the goal. Absolutely. Stick it up there on the vision board. Great. But build a sustainable business on the back end. Because when all this goes to caught
To
that
shit.
one. Yeah, there we go.
I'll say it for you, mate. It's okay.
On your channel. When this all
It's
goes
all
to
good.
shit, is that you need something to fall back on. And people get caught up with this instant money. And I would say before you become the content creator, you need to commercialize your brain, because when you commercialize your brain, you'll think of things. And before you do things, you'll be proactive, not reactive. So before you say something on a piece of content, you will be mindful, just as am I, you'll be thinking, will this conflict with a brand deal or a potential sponsor? Right. I need to change that. Right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to articulate it in a different way. Now it's good for everyone. It's good for my viewers for the instant hit, but it's also good for potential sponsors and people who will look over my content. But also, are you acting as your own funnel to the back end business? Because, for example, I'm not willing to lose myself and not be authentic and not be transparent to jump on trends, which is why we find it so frustrating, right? And we were talking about a certain individual who's now doing the clouty stuff to get the followers because, there's obviously a big dopamine hit rush going on
Hmm.
right now. And I'm not willing to do that because I know in the next 10 years, I'm going to sell this bad boy for over 20 million. I know I'll sell another company of mine for over 10 million. So I know I have a gate and I will disappear. And that's my goal because I know exactly what I want. So, yes, I'm a big voice now, but I'm going at my pace, which more people should do. I'm only influenced by me, not anyone else. And I'm in my own bubble, knowing that my bread and butter is in cash flowing business. Social media gets shut off. Have I got enough equity in the business to keep cash flowing, keep remaining liquid, and have I got the ability to sell? That's why I do so much, like we were just saying about being overwhelmed. I just came off a business meeting now because when I'm not on socials, I'm grinding every minute on my business to make sure in 10 years I'm selling that bad boy for millions and that all of this is worth it. I would not want to be spending every day just doing social media and then it go kaput. And now I'm like, shit, I'll go get a job. I've lost
Hmm.
myself. And when I now go get a job, everyone's going to be like, oh, you were the guy that was pretending to be Robocop for 8 hours a day. Yeah, that's me. you know?
Yeah, I think there's so much there in terms of having an exit strategy, having an exit plan, having a reason why you're doing it, which goes back to what we've spoken about in your pod. What is the plan? Are you just jumping on this because, yeah, quick money? Okay, you could make a bit of money quite quickly. But one thing that I've noticed is the people who go after the quick money, they're the ones that quickly fade because you're not saying anything that is tangible. You're just not. And a lot of the time, you're just jumping on trends or you're saying something to be controversial on purpose, but that quickly loses you credibility. There's a guy on Instagram right now. Oh my god, frick, he's all over my page, and I don't know why. It's not even my content. I don't even consume the content, but it's like all over my page at the moment. He just talks nonsense about nutrition, and it's like, dude, you used to be a bodybuilder. You're not like a doctor. You don't have any professional qualifications, and you're then calling out doctors who say, like, scientifically this is how it works, and you're saying they're talking absolute nonsense. Just eat healthy. What is eating healthy? Like, you don't have any
It's
veg in
all
your
added.
freaking diet. That's not healthy. Come on, dude. Like, seriously, it drives me nuts. But you'll find that, yes, you can grow very quickly. You might make a load of money very quickly. But he's coming under a lot of scrutiny at the moment because there is no
Yeah.
substance to what is being said. And I think that's very, very important in being on social media and building a business. You gotta have substance. You have to.
Do you know what? I think he's fallen heavy into the marketing. I think he has got so much trajectory off of quick marketing. He's just doubling down on that, saying whatever needs to be said to propel, to propel, to propel. And this is the shame about the world that we're in. When you're building a personal brand and a side hustle and a business, it's almost like, however, I don't care how I get to the top. I'll say whatever I need to because, and unfortunately, Pete, the reality is for some, as long as they make a pivot at the top and they do some wicked charity work, they can turn it all around. But now they're sitting on the top and now they've got the clout where they can go, just to let you know, for the last 6 months, I've been giving it large, but now
Hmm.
I'm up here. Now, and some people do fake it until they make it. And that is another way of doing it. It's not one that I would promote it, but I would promote it in the sense that, if you're in a place where you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to build a side hustle, you're trying to educate yourself, I do promote, and I would certainly recommend to people, become the person mentally that you want to be in 6 months, 12, 2 years, 3 years, because you have to rewire the hardwire. That's the thing with business and side hustle. It's a different ball game. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be passionate about this so damn much that you have to be the person that you want to be now and in 4 and 5 and 6 years. And it's a tough game, but marketing, we could talk about that all day long, but that's a huge part as well. We all wear many hats, right? That's a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many gems that you've dropped in here, and I'm hoping that if you're listening or watching this, you've found something useful. I think for me, the biggest takeaway is this: if you feel like, and I know most people do, given where we are at the moment, and it's funny, I came back from New York last week, and oh boy, Jesus Christ, the problems they have out there it's almost like holding up a mirror to us here in the UK. It's crazy how similar it is. You have to go out and earn more money. You're going to need a side hustle. And it's sad to say that you're going to have to do that. But this is the world that we're in right now. So, this hopefully is giving you some kind of nugget, some kind of encouragement to get going from a point of view where Aaron and I, we both, got our own things going on social media, and we've tried to do it in the best way possible. Try not to jump on the hype trains, or do if you so wish to, but just bearing in mind some of the stuff that we've spoken about here, if you're going to do it, I would hope that you're going to try and do it for longevity, for the bigger picture, and trying to have a plan at the outset, speak from the outset, so you can actually do something that is going to change your life in the long term and not just about that short term period. But before we finish off, mate, I know you've got your event that you mentioned a little bit earlier on. How do people actually book on?
Just go to peakperformance.co.uk or go onto Instagram, Peak Performance Event, July the 11th, Power of Social Media Volume 3. It'll be an absolute eye opener. And just a final word, mate. I would just say as well, as like the last nugget, is that actually know what you want. Because that's the other thing. When you get down to the crux of it, not a lot of people really know what they want as an income. They don't really know what they want now, 2 and 3 and 4 years' time. They don't really know, and when you can understand what you want, live a life which is more frugal, live a life where you don't spend money on materialistic things. And I think if you can come away from keeping up with the Joneses and you can just be happy where you are.
Mm,
And number one, I'm doing a video on this later, money is the root of all happiness to me, because I didn't come from money, but money now buys me time freedom. And after this podcast, I'm going to wrap up a couple of bits, and I'm going to go down to the gym, and I'm going to go out for a nice lunch, and then I'm going to go for a stroll. Everyone else is going to be at work, but I've worked hard to now go piddle about for the rest of the day. Time freedom is an absolute luxury. Nothing else matters to me in terms of materialistic things. I just want time freedom every single day, and I have that for my entire
Yeah.
family. We all have that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really important point to make. And this is kind of where it dovetails into what I do. The funny thing is, when you talk about time freedom and what that basically means to individual people, yes, it's different. But fundamentally, in order for you to get to the point where you can enjoy time freedom, Aaron just mentioned there, not keeping up with the Joneses, which means you're not going out to work and spending all your money on Balenciagas and Versace's and Louis Vuittons and all this nonsense that people tell you that you have to be wearing to be perceived as a success. You need to rein that in. You need to understand what it is that you actually want, what time freedom means to you, what financial security means to you. And that's directly the stuff that I teach people in my book club, talking about how do you align your life goals? Like, let's go through a wheel of life. Let's go through a finance wheel. Let's timeline what you actually want to achieve. Let's put it out on paper. Let's document it. And then we start talking about, right, what are the financial habits that need to sit around this? How do you structure it? That's what we do over a 6-week period in the book club. So if you go onto my website, petercomalafi.com, there is a tag, an icon on the thing which says book club. Go check it out. There's lots of freebies, really, really good value for money. Go and attend Aaron's next event and just get some information on social media, because at the end of the day, if you're spending a lot of time on social media and you've been watching this for the past, 40 minutes or so, you want to get something out of it. Intention is absolutely key. So thank you so much for Aaron for joining, and just gems, mate, as always. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, I love doing it with you. It's always good fun. We have a good laugh as well.
Good, man. All right, well, look, guys, hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, make sure that you smash the like button on YouTube, because that will really help with other people seeing it. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing as well, and go follow Aaron as well, and consume some of that content as well. But I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.